Good evening, good sir.
Hello, can you hear me?
Yeah, loud and clear.
Good. You can't hear the music in the background, right?
No, I'm just hearing you.
Great. Well, I'm ready.
Yeah, same as well. So, well, yeah, I'm just gonna let them know that we're ready.
Sweet.
Been a while since I did any double cast, but yeah, these are usually pretty fun. So, looking forward to working with you, good sir.
Yeah, likewise, man. How many viewers do we have?
Hang, I can check that while I'm just setting the. Well, the recording started. We're down to 13, but it did go up to around 40. I just wonder if people, if Naaium's actually announced that we're casting once again. It did say thank you for now when I didn't realize that we were actually doing round 2 with Toilailee right away.
Alright.
Yeah, I gotta admit, well, of course I've just seen Toilailee play, but this MehDespair fellow, I don't think I've seen any games with him. Do you know of this guy?
The MehDespair?
Yeah.
No. Unless he's some Smurf or using a different nick or something. I don't know.
Well, that could happen. Still,
Well,
though,
I mean, I'm really inactive, so I really don't have a single clue on who's actually playing these days and everything, and who's good and who's not.
yeah, I've been rather slacking in regards to the whole game replays community thing as well, but then again, it's very rare to see Tyranids these days, so just in that virtue, it should be an interesting match.
Yeah, I think on a personal level, I think Tyranids are probably one of the most boring factions and the most boring faction to actually go up against because it's pretty one-dimensional and really isn't. Like you usually always see the same stuff, like no real experimental and fun type of play, but you know, it's completely subjective and like if you want to try and be experimental or anything with Tyranids. But more onto the game itself. Toilailee going for the double Sentinel. Sentinel is pretty good against Tyranids, as long as you can keep them alive, obviously. We got a little engagement on the right hand side with the Sentinel going for a stomp on that Termagant squad, dropping it down to half health and forcing it to fall back and denying some capping on the right hand side, while at the same time he's capping on the left hand side.
Yeah, it looks like he's grabbing the victory point rolls. Well, not victory point, the... hang on, I'm having a bit of a technical issue here.
Alright.
For some reason I was having a splash screen not showing properly. I'm hoping it's working now, else Naaium is probably gonna throw a fit at me.
So the Hormiguns tried to get the decap on the power node, but were unsuccessful in doing so, and they only lost one model, so they really didn't accomplish anything except for maybe delay some of the aggression play by the double Sentinels, but they're pretty much back in action and are now denying any forward aggression by the Tyranian player.
Yeah, double Sentinel, I can imagine it's incredibly hard for Tyranids to actually deal with that. Pretty much the only thing that can actually get to them at in tier 1 is probably the Termagants, and let's be honest, those guys aren't the actually damage them. They aren't really the biggest damage dealing machines out there.
Yeah, unless you have like 4 or 5 of them, that's when you like go overboard in Termagants. But anyway, the Commissar Lord is now joined up with the double Sentinels, and we have one nice stomp there by the Sentinel, more or less forcing a blob retreat there. I don't think that was necessarily, but maybe he wants just to be a bit cautious about the situation here and avoid taking unnecessary losses. But I think he could really maybe afford to stay a bit and put some pressure on the Sentinels and try to avoid losing a power generator.
Definitely, especially seeing how the guardsmen weren't even available there, and there weren't any repairs going on, so you could probably have stayed and fought for a fair bit and at least forced the guardsmen to focus on repairing before they got this turret up, which is just...
This is a really tough situation for the Tyranids. The double Sentinel Guardsman and the Commissar has more or less locked down this entire section of the map, and looking at the right hand side, we have only the Hormiguns on 6 members, and the Guardsmen were pushed back by the Hormiguns. But I mean, the Tyranids are just completely locked down at the moment.
Yeah, they're not going to be able to approach this position and not take insane losses. And honestly, in Tier 1, I don't think the Tyranids even have anything that can stand up to this kind of thing. Even Ravenous would just get stumped by the double Sentinels and be forced to retreat.
Yeah. Flesh took the member there. Not sure if that was worth it. Probably should have tried to save that Flesh hook maybe for the Commissar Lord.
Yeah, Guardsmen really, it really doesn't matter sniping Guardsmen models.
Yeah. And we have 2 power generators up for Toilailee, and not a second node though. But the Imperial Guard isn't really known for being the power intensive Tier 1 race, so they can really afford to be a bit conservative with their power investments in the early game. It's when Tier 2 comes into play, that's when they usually have to step up their game in terms of power.
Yeah, most of the time the Imperial Guard can pretty much get away with perhaps getting a piece of work here in the commander, but otherwise they don't really have to spend any power at all in the early game. I mean, Catechins are kind of good at the moment, but honestly that's pretty much the only option, seeing how I'm guessing the heavy weapon team is still bugged to hell, right?
Yeah, it still is. One thing to know is that flare actually affects your own unit, so he actually flared his own guardsmen there. You can see
still
the red
though,
orb.
it was probably worth it, but yeah, it is one of the fewest global abilities that affects you
Yeah.
negatively in that regard, and it's not all about blowing stuff up. I mean, that makes sense, and of course it does make sense that flares affect you, but you do have to be a bit careful.
Yeah. Totally will be going into Tier 2 pretty much now, I think. Now? No? Okay, he invested in something, so he won't be going Tier 2 just yet.
Any moment now.
Yeah, any moment. And he's way ahead of MehDespair at the same time. So if he rolls out a fast Chimera, it's probably gonna be GG over.
Does look like the Lictor Alpha actually has a Toxin Miasma upgrade. I'm not sure what that's about, to be honest, though.
He's gonna lose the Lictor Alpha now.
Yep.
And that's just more insult to injury. He has no power, he has very low requisition, and the power like he got the Toxic Miasma upgrade also, which is really not paying off as well. It's really difficult for MehDespair to pull through right now. The double Sentinel is just completely destroying the Tyranid army. And also because the fact that this is a really open map and there's very little actual cover to use for the Termagant, so the double Sentinel is really paying off in terms of also causing attrition.
Yeah, there's a lot of races have trouble with this, but as mentioned, Tyranids are definitely receiving the short end, and it doesn't help that he's using Lictor Alpha, who's probably one of the worst commanders to deal with him as well. I mean, the Hive Town is probably going to have trouble with it, but at least he can actually stand there and take some punishment while being there. It does look like they have a warrior squad coming out there, and there's the suppression on the from the Barb Stranglers. It's gonna be dealing some damage to the guardsmen at least, and having heavy armor, they can at least stand up to some range fire. But of course, the Commissar there, and he's just gonna force melee and negate, stop them from actually getting shots off.
Yeah, so Toilailee is now Tier 2, and MehDespair has 10 power in this Tier 1, so any fast vehicle right now will be sealing the deal for this game. Also, one thing to note is that Sentinels actually have an increased detection rate on invisible units, so they're a semi-counter to invisible units, more or less.
Yeah, I did notice that earlier on, that they kept semi-revealing the Lictor Alpha at a surprising range, and well, it's rather annoying. I recall at one point when I was having a lot of trouble with Sentinels playing the Commander knob, I tried out, you know, when Imperial Guard players tend to repair their Sentinel fire, they tend to stand still. I tried to sneak up on them and throw grenades, but the thing is, they kept detecting my Commander knob from enough of a distance that they would just be able to react to it and walk away. I figured you could get closer than that, but they really do it's not real detection, but it's definitely still enough to ruin any ambushes.
Yeah. We have that Chimera out now, and I wonder though if like MehDespair is just gonna call it quits once he actually sees the Chimera, because he's so far behind, he really can't deal with this. And any type of furthermore investment in tier 2 from IG side is gonna be really difficult to deal with.
Yeah,
like an
Ogres would utterly destroy him, seeing how he's got such a ranged blob. Manticores would probably destroy him as well, and well, I gotta be honest, I wouldn't think any less of him if he's calling it a GG right here.
Yeah.
He does kill a
Kills
Sentinel though, but he is losing, well, he's lost 2 Termagant squads from that, and yeah, that's the GG.
Yeah.
That ended pretty quickly. I'm just gonna...
What commanders does MehDespair have now at his disposal? Same goes for Toilailee. He still has all IG rights since his last matchup was against an IG, right?
Yeah, he does have at least the Inquisitor and the Lord Commissar, so I'm guessing he's gonna go IG again, but I'm not sure which his other commanders are.